Good evening, everyone. This is the Seattle Seahawks follow-up. Who did? No, it's not. It's not anything about football. That's over with supposedly now. So, we're, are we on to basketball and hockey? And let's see, soccer is starting back up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Olympics, that's
oh, the
exciting.
Olympics, fabulous.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a great week for
excellent.
Olympics, that's for sure.
We'll get started and give everybody 30 seconds to grab some water. Pull up a chair and join us tonight for night one of two of College Aid Pros Boot Camp. So we're excited to have you here. Let's see, chat. What shall we have people put in the chat? If you have a college bound teen, what high school graduation year? Are they graduating in 26, 27, 28, 29? I'm selling at 30.
27s,
Oh, yeah.
27s. Oh, lots of
All right.
juniors.
Mhm.
There's a
That's good.
sophomore.
You're
Okay.
not too early. You're not too early. It's
Got a
good you're
25
here.
something. Yep, yep. Yeah, I just posted that on a LinkedIn post I made. Like, when's the ideal time? No later than 10th grade. If you can get started earlier, the better.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, 27. Okay, mostly juniors, it looks like.
That's
Okay.
great.
Good, good,
Okay,
good.
good.
Yeah, that's
Well, we
very
want to
good.
welcome you tonight and thank you so much for making time. We know all of everybody's busy and to allocate some time tonight to kind of uh, anxiety about college. Anxiety is absorbed by action, we love to say. And so you're taking action tonight, hopefully removing a little more of the mystery that is college planning and late stage college planning is nowadays. My name's Michael Korch. I'm in Seattle and I help families. This is my third year. I've been working with College Aid Pro, and I work with families all across the country and the whole gamut. Just like Jason, as far as from, hey, I need to build a list, all the way through to appeals and loans and everything in between. So excited to be with you tonight. A little bit of housekeeping stuff, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jason to introduce himself. Um, put your questions if instead of on the chat where we just started, there's a Q&A function. Please use Q&A. So we always get so many questions and we do our darndest to answer as many as we can during the presentation and typing them in as well as we can cover more of those. So let's focus on Q&A for that. Uh, this webinar is being recorded. Everyone that has registered will receive an email in the next day or so with a link. So if one of your partner can't make it tonight, you want them to take a look or something else you got to run out and pick up one of the kids. Don't worry, there'll be a recording so you can follow up and get those details. So there's going to be some situations where people ask some great questions, but they're very unique, very specific to your life situation. And not that we don't know the answer, but it's kind of a college malpractice to like get 10% of the details and say, oh, yeah, the answer is this. Is like, that's not, if we need more information typically, like we work with folks and we see their tax forms and we see other parts of their life in order to really kind of understand the situation and provide adequate guidance. So we're not trying to blow you off. It's just we're going to encourage you to take advantage of getting a free consultation afterwards, and so we can hear the rest of the story and really give you some better personal advice. Okay. Jason, please jump in and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm Jason Sloan, one of the college planning experts here at College Aid Pro. A little bit about me. I've been in higher education for a very long time. I became a professor in 2002. I still teach some college classes um, at Georgia Southern University right there. And I live outside of Savannah, Georgia. And I live in Savannah, Georgia. Sorry, Georgia Southern's outside Savannah. But I've also been a financial advisor since 2008, and since 2019, I've been doing college planning, and I got into this business, this niche, so to speak, because of my own kids. So most importantly, I'm a parent of three. I have two in college right now, and one in ninth grade in high school. So I feel your pain, parents. I've been in your shoes. I know what this is like, and so. But been at with College Aid Pro now. It's going on my second year. Just absolutely love it here. And I love to do these boot camps and webinars and seminars and presentations for parents because I always joke I'm the former dean that spills the beans. And so I love to tell parents how they can get more money so they don't pay as much. I feel like it's penance for all the years I was a dean and I was stealing money from families. Now I have to give back.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Okay, well, I guess we're ready to jump in.
Yeah,
Let's get started.
let's see if I can figure out how to share screen. All right, we're pretty good at college planning, but I don't know if we're that great at technology.
Well, I too am a father of three. I've got a 24-year-old that's not in school and twin 21-year-olds that are in their senior year of college. So we're just maybe a little bit ahead of you on the call tonight.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, sorry.
and so go ahead, Jason.
No, I'm okay. Go.
Okay. All right. Well, here we always start our webinars with our mission. We're very mission driven, and really, this company was formed to try to make a dent in the 1.8 trillion with a T student loan debt. And it's a crisis that part of it is really about a little bit of education can take you a long way in this field and understanding a little bit. You don't have to understand every arcane rule and what every single college does and how they evaluate home equity versus no, you don't have to do that, but you got to understand a little bit about the financial aid and scholarship game. And trust me, you will be can be hugely rewarded for that little bit of knowledge. And we'll talk about that tonight. So really the insights and the focus for tonight is not surprising. College is expensive. You know, there are more than a dozen schools that are over $100,000 sticker price for 1 year of undergraduate education, which is shocking. But just because the sticker price is 104,000, that doesn't mean that's what you and your family are going to necessarily pay. Most of the families will pay a lower, what we would say, a 1 year net price, and that's the cost of education minus financial aid. There's going to be a lower price point there. So, what's the goal? The goal is to understand, how do I get aid? What is aid? How do I get it? Some schools offer lots of scholarships. Others offer no scholarships. Some are very generous with need-based aid that's focused on your financial situation. Others are less generous. So that's some of the data that you need to know about. And every family has a path through higher education that's affordable. So just because your neighbor or your brother-in-law talks about, oh, all schools are this expensive, and if you can't qualify for aid at that school, you can't qualify for aid at any school. That's not true. There is an affordable path for every family, and that's the nice thing about having our system. So where can you gain access and start to better understand what schools are affordable for you? That's a big part of our business. It's called the MyCap software, like My College Aid Pro. We're going to have a link that we'll offer to you that anyone can go and sign up for a free account. You can add up to 3 schools and immediately kind of see how they're the same or different, or what their 1 year net cost is for your family. Because like George Washington University says, yeah, our sticker price is 98,000, but the average price is 28,000. And I know that when I was touring different schools with my twins, with my daughters, I wanted to know, am I the $98,000 family, or am I the $28,000 family, or even less? Because
Yeah.
that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just went ahead and dropped a link in the chat to everybody to set up a free Mic app account. So if you don't have a free Mic app account, the link is in there for you to do so.
Thank you. All right, so a good place to start. Let's talk about this umbrella term of financial aid. What is all under that umbrella? What does it really mean? So financial aid is just basically a discount off of that sticker price, that cost of attendance. If you've purchased an automobile in the last whatever 10 years, you probably know, if you go into the Toyota dealer or the Honda dealer or the Kia dealer, there is a sticker, and the stickers pretty much are structured and look the same in all the different dealers. Why? Because the government says, this is the way you're going to do it if you want to sell a car in this country. This is the structure. These are the rules you have to follow. Unfortunately, there is no such thing like that in college or in university pricing in the United States. Every institution kind of gets to present things in their own way and have their own rules to a certain extent. So the things that we need to know is the two buckets here, kind of one on the left and one in the middle. We really like those as parents. That's free money. You don't have to pay these things back. So the one on the left, need-based grants, that is about the financial profile of the family. You know, as you can imagine, if you have higher income and assets, you have more resources. The school's going to reflect on that and say, well, we're going to give you less of a discount because of that. Okay, middle bucket we love too, merit-based scholarships. So many schools in the country give out scholarships based on the talent profile of the student. It could be the academic record like GPA and test scores. It could be the sports, you know, scholarships. You're the high school quarterback, whatever. Could be a musical, you know, for voice or future cellist, if you will. Different schools
Bagpipes, bagpipes.
Oh, there's the bagpipes. Yeah, we got to find that one again. That's a good one.
College of Worcester, where I went, they have bagpipe scholarships.
There you go. So you got to find those schools that fit your student. Um, okay, we love those scholarships. The need-based grants, it's a 1 year grant. So that's why we got to file the financial aid forms every year to get that new snapshot and get a new grant. Merit-based scholarships, much of the time, are 4 years. So if you win a $10,000 a year scholarship, that's 10 times four. That's a $40,000 discount off the cost of school. We love that as parents. Okay, the final one, if I guess you could call it financial aid. It falls under the bucket of financial aid called self-help. Loans, work study. Obviously not free money, you know, loans, you pay back principal plus interest. Work study is an exchange of a little bit of kind of minimal wage for your student with a job, you know, for the time, a job on campus, working in the cafeteria at the library, something like that. So could potentially help pay the bill, not going to make the bill any smaller. So here's kind of one of the few um, constants in the college planning funding universe is this simple math here, this equation of you take the sticker price of the school, let's say it's $100,000, you subtract what is called the student aid index. And this is essentially a number. It's unique to every family. It's based on their income and assets. And it's essentially what the colleges and the government says that your family can pay for one student for 1 year of school. And the range can be from minus 1,500 all the way to 1 million. I've never seen a 1 million. I've seen a couple of 400 and something thousands, which that's, you know, if you can pay $400,000 in the government's eyes for a year of school, you're not going to be getting any need-based aid at any of the schools, obviously. So just because you can pay $100,000 for school, it doesn't mean you necessarily want to pay that amount. So how do you further get a discount? Scholarships, need-based scholarships, scholarships that are just based on the talent profile of the student and have nothing to do with the income and assets of the parent. So that's kind of where you can start to see, based on your financial situation, how you might need to make some decisions about the type of schools and how they potentially discount. Okay. So cost minus your student aid index equals a number, you know, need. So if it costs 100, your SAI is 40, it means you have a $60,000. It's important to note the underlined word here, $60,000 of potential need. Some schools, there's a very small number of schools, less than 100 out of the 4,000 in the country, that cover 100% of need. So Stanford, you can get into Stanford and it costs $98,000 a year at Stanford and you only can pay 10,000. Stanford will say, don't worry about it. We're going to cover the gap. The rest, you just pay that $10,000. Most schools don't have that kind of deep pockets. So that's where we have to really understand for each school. Okay. So what income, you may wonder, do colleges consider? You know, is it all types of income? Well, first you could look at two buckets. It's the parent or parents' income. as well as then the student income as well. For the parent income, we're started in the Obama administration. It's going to look at the last full tax year, which is 2 years back from your student's high school graduation. So for all the 2027s that put in the chat earlier today, your students graduating high school 2027, you subtract two, they're going to look at the 2025 tax year that just recently finished up. So that ship kind of left the dock now, as we know. We probably can't do a lot of changes to what was reported in the 1040. So if that's why this is one of the primary drivers when you hear college planners saying, man, the earlier you start, the better, that you have more leverage. There's more potential things you can change or manage or postpone in your income schedule so that when the time comes to fill out financial aid, you'll have a lower position, you get more aid. So now for the 27s, might be a little bit late for that, but for the 28s and beyond, you still have some time to make some strategic decisions, can make a big difference. AGI is a big contributor. That's really the big driver of student aid index. So the more your adjusted gross income, that SAI number is going to be higher. On the student income side, a lot of students earn some kind of summer job or internships or work during the year. The government has a number. I think this year it's about 11,770. I think 11,770. So basically, the income up to that number kind of gets pushed off to the side. It's not included as a contribution against financial aid. Okay. So that's the income side, that 2-year look back. What about assets? When we talk about assets, big difference is, hey, is this a student asset or is this a parent asset? The financial aid formulas assign an assessment value against an asset. So if a student has $10,000 in a savings account, the schools will assess 20, potentially 25, even maybe a little bit more against that $100,000 for 1 year against aid. So wow, 25% of $100,000, even $10,000, it's a lot of money. Well, what if that $10,000 was over under mom and dad? How is it assessed? It's assessed at a much lower rate. Just a little, at the highest, it's 5.64%. So that's an important thing to think about, that I've only had a couple families I've consulted with in my time that when we started talking about these assets, the student had a significant, more than $50,000 in a savings account. It's like, first of all, that's amazing. Congratulations. But gosh, that's going to be a big hit. Is there a chance that, mom or dad can put themselves as a co-owner on that account? Because then we can say that's a parent asset and it gets assessed at a much lower rate. So what else? Non-retirement assets only. So what are retirement assets? Things like 401ks, 403bs for teachers, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, those kind of qualified accounts. Those are protected. No one assumes that money needs to come out of retirement in order to pay for school. So we're only talking about non-retirement assets. Finally, current value, as opposed to the 2-year look back for income, these asset values need to come from essentially the moment you submit the form. So kind of real-time values. Okay.
I just want to jump in and say, for those of you who are parents of juniors, class of 27, this is important because the income side of the calculation is based on the 25 tax returns. So there's not much you can do about those, but there's still planning opportunities for you on the asset side of things. So if you've got significant assets or retirement or rentals or brokerage accounts, those kinds of things, you might want to talk to us about, things you can possibly do to reposition assets from a financial aid perspective, potentially to get more aid.
Thank you, Jason. That's a good point. Oop, I think we jumped one more ahead than that. No, that's it. Thank you. All right. So some of you out there might have college accounts like 529s or Coverdell's. there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, on YouTube about 529s or this or that or the other. College accounts are evil. If they see you have those, you're not going to get any aid. That's not true. 529s are assessed at the same rate as the other assets, but there can be a big gotcha. And that's what this slide is about. It matters who the account owner is of that 529. It's We catch people every week that we consult with where the chunk of dollars that may be in a 529 account gets put under kind of the account ownership as the student. Hey, this is money for the student to use for college. In the vernacular of the financial services, the account owner there only is one name. It's usually a mom or dad or a grandparent, and it's FBO for the benefit of the student, but they're not the owner of the account. They can't take the money out. It's the parent that controls that. They're the account owner. So this is a big gotcha where people think it's the students. They put it under the student name. And remember, going back one slide, it's like then it's assessed against them at 20 or 25%. And that's the number gets suddenly they're going to get a lot less aid because of that mistake. So makes a big difference kind of who that account owner is. And in the federal student aid index, which is the FAFSA, which we'll talk a little bit more about, all the schools take the FAFSA. The majority of the schools use that for their financial aid determination. Now the rules say, hey, if it's outside kind of the mom and dad and the nuclear family, like if a grandparent owns it or mom has a sibling that owns the dollars, poof, it's kind of like that money disappears and it doesn't even get assessed. It's kind of outside the household. And that can be a great, great saver to lower your student aid index number and try to get some more aid. Okay, important question here. Do you own your house? That can make, that can be for many families the biggest asset, that they have in their net worth. And we look at some amazing institution logos here. They evaluate home equity, pretty differently here. So the Syracuse, University of Miami, BC, NYU, it's kind of three schools of thought in how home equity is assessed. For the FAFSA only schools, the primary residence, regardless of how much home equity is in that primary residence, it's kind of measured at zero. It's like off the books. I'm 2.5 miles from Bill Gates's house. It's $150 million on Lake Washington. If Bill were to have filed the FAFSA and when the student go to a FAFSA school, when it comes to the assessment of his, primary residence, it's off the books. It's a zero. Now, other real estate, if you have a vacation home or a vacant lot or a rental or a duplex, triplex apartment, they're going to want to know, all the schools are going to want to know about that. For these amazing institutions that use this secondary financial aid application, the CSS profile, it's administered by College Board, they kind of lift every rock looking for a dollar and they assess all home equity, primary residence, all other real estate. They want to know about all of it. So if you have the good fortune to have a lot of home equity or you have multiple properties and real estate is part of, a big part of your portfolio, you get that could be a big impact upon the costs of different schools. So be aware of that. Jason, you want to add to that or?
This is another gotcha. Families who live in high cost of living areas, Seattle, California, Austin, Chicago, Boston, New York. If you have if you live in a home, I see this all the time. You live in a home, you make a decent income, but because of cost of living, it's not like you got tons of extra cash lying around. But what you do have is a lot of equity in your home because of because home prices have gone up in those areas. And then your kid starts putting their college list together, and they put NYU, BC, Miami, and Syracuse on there. And all of a sudden, wait, how does Miami expect us to pay $90,000 a year? We can't afford that. Don't they know about our cost of living in Seattle or cost of living in New York, Boston, or whatever? And it's like, oh, they're looking at the home equity in your house, and they're salivating and rubbing their hands together like, woo hoo hoo, we're going to take money out of that house. And so you get caught off guard if you don't know the financial aid practices and business models of all the schools on your kid's list. So that's the really important thing is like as your kid's building a list of colleges, you have to know what is the financial aid practice? What is the business model this college uses to be able to accurately project, how much aid is the school going to give you, if any, and therefore how much is the actual true net cost out of your pocket? And you'd be surprised. Some of these schools, again, if you own a home and you got some home equity in it, you're from a high cost of living area, you're going to be very, very careful about that college list because some of these schools think they can cash in on it. So,
So
well, I
by
mean,
oh yeah,
yeah.
go ahead,
Speaking of
please.
that, do you want to do a little quick demo of
Yeah,
MyCap to show like real life
yeah.
how this all kind of comes together in MyCap? Let me stop sharing and I'll let you kind
Okay,
of do a demo of that.
perfect. Let's go over here. So by now you may, your eyes may be rolling back into your head after 26 minutes together and like, oh my gosh, how can I assess all these variables, at all these different institutions and all, how are we going to build this list or how are we going to refine this? And it's like, again, you don't have to memorize all these things. You just got to have an awareness and understand what some of these levers are. I'm going to kind of walk you through here. And when you arrive at our website, these are just screenshots, but because I wanted to show you how quick and easy it is just to get an account up and running. And for those of you that are going to continue on tomorrow, and I hope you come back tomorrow for our next presentation, that's where the magic kind of happens. And we're hoping as many of you, if you don't have a MyCap, set one up. It literally takes less than 5 minutes to just get it started. And tomorrow's just going to be so much more valuable for you because you're going to be able to see how this all comes together for you. So, and there's no cost to it. So when you arrive at the home page, there's a big button right in the top banner. It says "Get started for free." You click on that and it takes you to, hey, what's your email address? Put in your email address, and there's a quick verification. You'll get an email with a 6-digit number. You type in the code from that email, and it's going to ask, great, what's your password? Put in your password, save that, and now you're starting to set up your account. There's 6 steps of kind of information that's just enough to get started that you can start to look at things. And there's a nice little thing here at the top middle of this screen. There's an invite a collaborator. So if you're married, if you have a partner that you're doing this with, you can invite them and they can help with putting in some of the numbers if you like. All right. And there's where you would put in the email address and invite the other partner in to do that work. If not, you go ahead and step number 1 is give us a school. What's one of your schools that you're thinking about? I think I typed in Stanford. So I said, yeah, Stanford. Okay, let's talk about the student. Step 2. Where do they live? What's their zip code? What's their high school? What year are they going to be starting college? Next is let's take a look at the academics of the student. This is a huge driver, kind of the filtering systems for scholarship. As you might imagine, the higher the GPA, the higher the test scores, you might get larger scholarships because let's face it, a lot of schools want to raise their profile. They want to get into that magical US News 100, which we're not great fans of because it's kind of a pay to play. But they want to get in that list because a lot of families like to shortcut and like, oh, we could do this planning in like a day or two. And we'll just read the list. And how do you get higher up in that list? You have a higher academic credentials for the students attending the school. So how do you get those people? You offer them more of a discount. So that's kind of a self-repeating, fulfilling system here in its own little way. Okay, you put in the GPA. If there are test scores, you put in test scores. There's still more than 1,000 schools that don't require test scores for college, and that's great too. All right, basic household. We're on 4 of 6. Are you married? Are you single? Are you divorced? Are you widowed? How did you file the last taxes? Step number five, what's the person that's filling out the form, what was your income or your earnings? And what's kind of approximately your non-retirement saving and investment dollars? And finally, last step is what's your estimated college budget? Whew, that one can throw some people off and like, gosh, I have no flipping idea. That's okay. Put in a number. There's no wrong answer. You can always edit all of this information that you're putting in, but it is good to kind of start thinking about looking at your portfolio, looking at, whether it's coming from cash flow, from grandma and grandpa are helping. Money can come from a lot of different places. Start Want to be thinking about that a little bit because that'll help in going through. And there you go. That is the information as far as to fill out the form, or I should say to get that account started. And then I'm going to show you real fast here. I did the same thing today. This is a demo account. It gave me here, when I go into the home page, what I want to draw your attention to is kind of this middle section here is really important. So here is the student aid index for my pretend family with the income and assets I put in. It says the federal government expects that this family should be able to pay $37,800 for a year of school. Here's a second student aid index, and that's that CSS profile application. Now, Jason's going to talk more about that in a minute. And it's at a lot lower number, which is kind of interesting. The CSS profile schools, there's about 250 out of the 4,000 that require the secondary form. It's the Ivies and the near Ivies and kind of the elite liberal art institutions, kind of really an amazing group of schools. And they're the ones that are really looking for like, where is every dollar so that we can try to give you a little bit less. And then there's that budget I set up. I said, this family has $60,000 they can spend over 4 years. Well, that's 15,000 a year. And tomorrow, what we're going to walk you through, I added the three schools that we're going to be looking at tomorrow. We're looking at a local in-state. So there's my University of Washington, go Dogs. And then we've got Pace University in New York, great school that's very generous with aid in New York. And then we have the incredible MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And I'll show you real quickly. This is just kind of one of the takeaways. Like, what would you expect against, what you have in mind for sticker prices of what schools cost? What's going to be the most expensive or the least expensive here for this particular family? Well, let's click on the University of Washington. Cost of attendance for next year, sticker price is $38,000, and this family is going to be paying $38,000. So a lot of state schools will say, hey, you're getting the discount. You're lucky. You live in the state. Think of what the out-of-state people are paying. They're at the UW, they pay $67 to go to the same school and take the same classes and have the same professors. Okay, 38. Well, what about Pace? Pace is an expensive school. That's probably out of range for us. Let's see what Pace says. Well, cost of attendance next year at Pace is almost 90,000. Still kind of expensive for us, but boy, 53,000, that's quite a bit less. Let's see where it's coming from. 36,000. That's a scholarship. Pace is really generous with scholarships. So my student is like a 3.6 GPA student with not very good test scores, and they're giving us $36,000 a year. Wow. Okay. Didn't expect that. Well, MIT, yeah, first of all, if you can get into MIT, that's a non-trivial challenge. But gosh, that's a super expensive school. There's no way we're going to make that. Let's see what MIT says. Okay, $96,000 a year cost of attendance. But for this family, if the student could get in, it's $25,000. $25,000. MIT is one of those schools I told you about earlier that's 100% meets 100% a need. So if you can get in $70,000 in need-based aid for this family. So that's why we say, don't look at one school and assume all the rest of the 4,000 schools follow the same rules, because they're different. They have different endowment. They use those endowment dollars differently. So let the software kind of help you with that, and you get some insight into your school list a little bit as well. So okay, enough of that.
That was great, Michael. Thank you. So, just a quick follow-up. Somebody asked a question about they put in three schools and they're trying to do some edits. Just so you know, the way the free version of the MyCap works is once you put in three schools, you're kind of stuck with those. You can't edit it. So sorry about that, but the idea is make sure you pick your top three schools. But you can upgrade, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end of the webinar at the boot camp tonight about, if you want to upgrade, it's $5 a month, $4.99 a month. You can upgrade, and that unlocks all the features, an unlimited number of schools, basically, is what it's going to unlock, and some other cool stuff too. But if your kid's looking at 20, 25, 30 schools, good luck, first of all. But you can put them all in there for $5 a month. So that's something to think about if you're going to use the tools. So, all right, let's jump back in. If I can, figure it out again. Oh, how'd it go? Yay, it worked. All right. Okay, so I've had a couple good questions in here about from business owners, and the business owners have a unique kind of circumstance. To be honest with you, this financial aid system is really not built for you. It is hard to put yourself in a box, so to speak, when it comes because you got fluctuating revenue and you got tax deductions and credits and future expenses and all this kind of stuff. It's really tough. For everybody on the call tonight, by the way, at the end of the boot camp tonight, we're going to give you the opportunity to meet with us, talk for 15 minutes or so about your particular case, and answer some questions, that kind of thing. So if you're a business owner, you might give some serious consideration to talking to us, because it's easy to make some big mistakes if you're a business owner, that could cost you to lose out on aid. And it's not your fault. It's just the system is not designed very well for self-employed individuals and business owners. But a couple of things is the size of your business really is very important. Okay. So as Michael mentioned early on, every school in the country requires the FAFSA, requires you to file the FAFSA. And in addition, there's a couple hundred schools that are going to, in addition to that, require the CSS profile. Well, if you're a business owner, you kind of get caught here because the good news is if you own a family-owned business with fewer than 100 employees, you don't have to report the asset and the valuation and so forth on the FAFSA. However, if your kid's going to apply to any schools that require the CSS profile, you're going to have to report that. Okay, so the size of the business matters with regard to whether or not you file the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Um, and when it comes to business valuation, there's going to be lots of questions on the CSS profile in particular about your valuation. And here's where, we're not giving specific advice, but general advice is this is the one time in your life when you want to look as poor as possible. So don't, be honest, but don't overestimate the value of your business. It's only going to hurt you. I had this conversation with a family yesterday, and I get it. The dad owned a business and he was like, no, it's worth $600,000. I'm like, are you sure? And he was like, no, I think that's the market value. I'm like, well, what do you have in hard assets? And he said, well, I don't have any hard assets. It's just intellectual property. It's what I know. I was like, if you put $600,000 down, I know, and the reason he was doing that is because he was trying to sell the business and he wanted to make it look. I was like, look, they're going to think that you have way more money than you do. So, if you want if you want some help around how to value your business, if you don't have official valuation, from a CPA or a financial advisor, something like that, talk to us. We can help you through that. But this is a big mistake we see. And naturally, business owners want to think their business is as valuable as possible. You're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. If they sold it, they would cash out and get rich. But from a financial aid perspective, that can only hurt you. So, okay. And we've gotten a few other questions about, divorced, separated family situation. We see this very, very common. A lot of our families are in this particular situation, and it is very challenging and it's easy to make mistakes. So here's another one of those kind of special advanced cases where if you're in this situation, you might want to talk to us to get some guidance because you don't want to make a mistake around this. But the short story is when you go to file the FAFSA, if you're divorced or separated, only one parent has to file. Okay. And it's a gray area. The rule is the parent who provides the most financial support. Now, this is a common mistake families make, which is that, well, okay, that must mean the parent that pays child support. One parent has a higher income, pays child support to the other. That's not necessarily the case because what they want to know is who actually pays the bills for the kid. And I've seen this many, many, many times where one parent makes a lot more than the other parent, and the high income parent pays child support. But it's the mom who's picking up the tab for everything, for travel ball and prom and paying the car insurance and going out to eat and all this other stuff. And you start looking at your monthly spend, and it's like, yeah, it's actually the low income parent is actually paying most of the stuff. So strange as it may sound, that's actually a good news from a financial aid perspective, because in that particular case, the low income parent would be the one filing the FAFSA. Now, when it comes to the CSS profile, everything I just said throw out the window, because CSS profile schools, again, there's several hundred of them, and all the Ivy Leagues and Ivy Pluses and elite privates, a few publics like Michigan and Wisconsin, some others. But if you're going to file, if you have to follow CSS profile, they're going to want both families. Okay, they're going to want both families. They're going to want both parents, excuse me. It is possible for you to apply for what's called the non-custodial profile waiver. Okay, so the custodial parent files the custodial profile in the CSS, the non-custodial files the non-custodial profile CSS. Um, if there's really, really tough situation where one parent is not around, or if there's legal things, preventing that, the one parent's not allowed to be in contact or whatever, you can ask for a waiver, but we'll be candid with you. It's very, very difficult to get those approved. So there's complexity here. If you are in a divorced, separated family situation, if you've gotten divorced since the base income tax year or whatever, please talk to us, because this is a really confusing, complicated scenario. And if you get it right, it could be very advantageous financially, financial aid wise. If you get it wrong, it could really hurt you. So okay, so Michael talked earlier about financial need. If you have demonstrated need based on your student aid index number, you could get some good need-based grants from a lot of schools. Not all schools, not some are more generous and charitable than others. But what happens if you really are one of these families? You make a lot of money, or you got a lot of assets or whatever. What do you do? Well, you're not out of luck. As we said at the beginning, every family can get financial aid. You just need to know how. And there's two kinds of gift aid that you don't have to pay back that brings the cost down. One is need-based aid for lower income families, but the other is merit-based aid. Okay. And so if cost is a concern and you're trying to get the cost of college down, then you're going to want to look for schools that are very generous with merit scholarships for your kid. Okay. And you're going to want to avoid, I know this is tough, but you're going to want to avoid a lot of the schools that don't, if cost is a concern. All right. And so schools like MIT, Harvard, Notre Dame, Northwestern, they do not give academic scholarships. Okay. They're not going to give your kid scholarships. I've seen this so many times where you have a high achieving kid. My kid's got a 4.0 unweighted and 4.6 weighted and a 36 ACT, and check captain of this and started a business and got venture capital funding, and I'm going to cure cancer and all this kind of stuff. And they go, my kid's going to get a full ride to Harvard, right? And I'm like, no, your kid's going to get zero. You're going to be full pay. It's going to be $400,000 to go to Harvard. They can't believe it. Well, it's because those schools don't give merit scholarships. Okay. But there are a whole bunch of schools that do. So if your kid's the kind of kid who could compete to get into Harvard or Notre Dame or MIT, then there are a bunch of schools out there that will throw money at that kid to get him to go there. Okay. So we got a couple listed here. Case Western and Denison, Ohio. I went to the College of Worcester as an undergraduate student, and they're the same athletic conference and compete for students with Denison and Case. Willamette University does a good job with merit. In the South, if you're looking at big public universities, Southeastern schools do a good job. Alabama, Ole Miss, these types of schools do a pretty good job with merit. So in other words, if you're a high income family or high SAI family, you're not out of luck. You're just going to want to change your college list. Okay. And that's why we say no before you go, because if you know this going into it, it's going to save you a lot of headache and heartache, because if your kid goes falling in love with these schools where you're not going to get any merit scholarships and you're a high SAI family, you're going to be out of luck. So, okay. Now, the other thing that we hear from students, families who are at high SAI as well, we make too much money. It's a waste of time. Who cares? Why should we even file this financial aid forms? Well, here's why. There are 5 reasons you still should submit the financial aid forms and go through the process, even if you're high student aid index, if you're high income and high asset. Number one is you might be eligible for need-based aid and you don't realize it. Somebody asked in the Q&A, and I love the question, said, we make 170. We're not going to get any aid, right? And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. You probably are going to get need-based aid, because there's this complicated formula they take into consideration household size and the age of the parent, all kinds of stuff. But there's a lot of schools where you're still going to get need-based aid if you make 250, sometimes even 300 grand, depending on the school and variables, that kind of thing. My cap will tell you, so my cap's super helpful here to project out if you're going to get a need-based aid, but don't assume you won't because you might. Second is if your kid's going to, if a school gives scholarships, merit aid, and your kid could get one, they're going to require you to file the FAFSA or CSS profile. You got to have it on file. And if you don't file the FAFSA or CSS profile, and your kid could have gotten a scholarship, if you didn't file it, your kid's not going to get a scholarship. You've left money on the table. Number three, it could be only chance to get financial aid. What do you mean by that? Well, a lot of families think they're going to game the system like, oh, we won't apply for financial aid in our first year, and that'll give us a better chance of admissions because they'll think we're full pay and they'll let my kid in because we're full pay. And then we'll get them years two, three, and four, we'll apply for aid. And no, 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 schools are onto that. Okay. If you don't apply for aid in the first year, they're going to be like, yeah, you're not getting aid any years because we know this game. So if you don't apply in the first year, you could be out of luck. And heaven forbid, I've had this case several times where a family was fine, they had plenty of money, and they wanted their kid to have a little bit better admission chance. I think it's kind of a myth, but they wanted to give their kid a better admission chance of getting into their dream school. So they didn't apply for financial aid. The kid got in, woohoo, it worked, right? We didn't get any financial aid, and then the dad lost his job in the middle of the first year. And now they literally can't afford it. And they're like, now what do we do? Go back and ask for financial aid. School's like, sorry, out of luck. So, heaven forbid that would happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but there is that risk. The fourth reason is you have to file the FAFSA and the CSS profile to be considered for appeals. What are appeals? Parents of seniors are going through this right now. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it here in a sec, but essentially when you apply for financial aid for you parents of juniors, that's going to be in October. Then in the spring of 27, your kid's going to start getting financial aid offers. And as we said at the beginning, it's just an offer, right? You can appeal those offers and get more money. You can reject the offer, appeal, and try to get more money. Well, you can't do an appeal if you don't apply for financial aid. So the process is going to be you apply for financial aid by filing the FAFSA. They come back and say, no, you get no financial aid, but then you can do an appeal. If you don't file the FAFSA, you don't ask for financial aid, there's nothing to appeal. So you need to do that. And then lastly, if your kid's going to use any student loans, your kid can only take out 27,000 total over 4 years in student loans. This is one of the biggest myths about college planning, college financial aid, is the student debt crisis. The dirty little secret is the parent debt crisis. Because, an 18-year-old kid with no job or credit or income, they can't get student loans without mom and dad or somebody co-signing for them. So the only loan they can get is the federal direct student loan. It's $5,500 the first year, $6,500 the second year, and $7,500 years 3 and 4. So 27K total. And that's the only loan they can get. So if you don't want to take out loans, parents, and ruin your retirement, right? Having loan payments into your 60s or whatever, you want the kid to be taking out student loans to have some skin in the game and pay for college, they have to file the FAFSA in order to get the federal direct student loan. Okay. So hopefully that persuaded you to file the FAFSA. Okay. No matter what your circumstances are. I can't think of any circumstance where I would not file the FAFSA. So how do you file the FAFSA? I'll give you a heads up on this. Okay. So it goes live on October 1st of the senior year. So you parents of juniors, it's almost March 1st. That means you're 7 months away from when this opens. It's like go time. Okay, you got to get your stuff in order. Okay, and again, we talked about this earlier, but they're automatically connected to the IRS database, so they're going to pull over tax returns from your prior year. So you parents of class of 27, that means they're going to pull your 25 tax returns. And again, if it's divorce, separated situation, just the custodial parent will do this. You can't do it early, but what you can do now, and we recommend doing this, is to create your accounts. So you're going to need a student account, right? Because the student's the one applying for aid. You're in the parent account, which in the parent is the contributor. So you're going to have a student account and a parent account. And so go in there to studentaid.gov, create an account, make sure you write down all your passwords and logins. They give you some backup security questions and a backup code. Write all that stuff down and save it so that when you go to file your FAFSA in October, you'll have all that information and it'll be easy peasy logging in to file the FAFSA. And by the way, yes, we do help families do this. We do have a service where we help families file a FAFSA and the CSS profile. So if you're looking for help, talk to us, we can share kind of what we do. The CSS profile, same thing, goes live on October 1st. It is administered not by the federal government. This is a private form administered by a private company called the College Board. The College Board administers the SAT, so you probably know it. So if your kid has taken the SAT, they have College Board credentials. That's what you'll use to log in and file it. Again, it's about several hundred colleges require, and it's in addition to the FAFSA. So you need to know, do the colleges on your list require the CSS profile or not? If they do, you got to do both. Okay. And a couple of differences on the CSS profile, they treat your home equity like a checking account. They're going to say you got to put it down. FAFSA, they're not going to ask you to report your home equity in your primary residence, but the CSS profile does. Divorced and separated families, here's the big difference. Again, if you're a divorced, separated family, you probably want to talk to us because this gets really messy, really complicated. But whereas on the FAFSA, only one parent files, CSS, in most cases, both file. There's some schools that don't require the non-custodial parent. But it is possible to submit what's called a non-custodial CSS profile, non-custodial profile waiver, but it's very hard to get it approved. And if you're in that situation, we do this for families. We help families through this almost like being their advocates, kind of. Did this for a couple families this year. Terrible circumstances, and they really did deserve to get a waiver approved. And so I helped them through that. But so that's the difference too for divorced and separated families. Business owners, oh my goodness, bless your hearts, as we say in the South. You just prepare yourself. You put down that you're a business owner on the CSS profile, and you're going to get hammered with question after question after question after question after question. And then when you answer those questions, they're going to pop open even more questions and more questions and more questions. So our joke, the CSS profile is just very invasive. It's very complex. The questions are designed to trip you up and trick you. Again, it's a private form. It's not a federal form, so it's designed for use by the colleges. It's designed to put you at a disadvantage. Just tons and tons of invasive, gray, complicated kinds of questions designed to trip you up. Our joke is when you go to file the FAFSA, you can probably get it done with a glass of wine. You go to file the CSS profile, you want to have the whole bottle. So that's our joke about that. Okay, now lastly, okay, as I mentioned just briefly, the process you're going to go through, parents of juniors and parents of sophomores and ninth graders, good to know this too. In the senior year, you're going to apply for aid in the fall, and then it's a bit of a waiting game through the winter. And then starting in late winter, early spring, depending on if you apply early decision, early action, regular decision, or whatever, you're going to start getting financial aid award offers from the schools. Okay, you're going to start getting financial aid offers. And I use that word on purpose. We use that word on purpose. All right. You have the right then to reject the offer and ask for more money. And you do that using what's called the appeals process. Okay. And so the appeals process is your chance to tell your story. Okay, your chance to provide documentation that's not asked on the FAFSA and the CSS profile, business expenses or medical expenses or caring for aging parents, or there's all kinds of different ways to appeal and ask for more money. Um, but this is a process. They don't say negotiation, but that's what it is. It's a negotiation. So you're not going to believe this, parents of juniors, but tense up. The appeals process probably starts in March and goes all the way through April. It could be 2 months of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with some of these schools. Um, Typically, if it's a need-based appeal, the parent's going to lead the charge. You can challenge some expenses. Sometimes they will factor back in contributions to IRA. These colleges do all kinds of crazy things to try to get you to, pay more. And so you can challenge some of their things that they do. Again, this is something we do a lot of for parents. We'll do several hundred appeals for families this spring for seniors. You can challenge the schools on a lot of this stuff, things that they wipe out from taxes, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff, like I said. If it's a merit-based scholarship, it's better if the student leads the charge. So there's some process strategy around doing appeals. Sometimes you want to make a specific ask. For example, if we mentioned Denison and Case Western as schools give merit, and I went to the College of Worcester. Well, if you want to go to the College of Worcester, and Denison offers you, and Worcester offers you a $10,000 a year scholarship, and Denison offers you a $20,000 a year scholarship, you can go to Worcester and say, "Hey, could you give me 10,000 more because that's what Denison gave me." That kind of thing. So the point here is, when you submit the financial aid forms, it's just the beginning. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint, and it goes for most families until the end of April. May 1st is decision day, but it can go through the very end of April till you get final offers from colleges. And I use that phrase on purpose, final offers, because they're going to give you a lowball offer in many cases, the initial offer, and then you appeal, you go, "Nope, we need more." And they go, "Okay, how about $500 more? Will that work?" You're like, "Nope, Need more. They're like, okay, how about 1,000? You're like, nope, need more. You can go back two, three, 4 rounds all the way through the month of April sometimes. And on April 30th, they email and you go, okay, how about 5 grand? Would you take it? It's crazy how the system works, but just know that the appeals process is a very important part of the process. So okay, so we're getting close to the end here. Just to wrap up, summary again, college expensive, but it doesn't have to be that expensive. Most families pay a lower net price after financial aid is applied. So if you get more aid, you're going to pay a lower price. And every family can get financial aid. Everybody can get the cost of college down. You just need to know how. Now, having said that, you may be here tonight just for the education. You're a DIYer. Great. Highly encourage you to use MyCap upgrade for $5 a month. It's like TurboTax. It's going to make your life way easier and more convenient if you're a DIYer. Or you might be on the call thinking, we want to hire somebody to do this for us. If you are thinking of that you might want to talk to us, you got some questions, or you're curious about our services, let me share with you some of our, just briefly, our full service package, what's included, what we do for families if you're looking for help. And if you are looking for help, I'll put this QR code back up. You can book some time. We'll actually talk tonight if you want us to give you a call tonight and just chat about our services, how much they cost, what you get, and that kind of thing. But we have a full service financial aid package where we do basically soup to nuts, everything for you from, projecting out net cost to helping you position your assets to get more financial aid to making college recommendations, filing the FAFSA, doing the appeals, helping you with paying the bill, like what's the best way to pay this for your bill and allocate our money and what loan should we use, all that stuff. We have an admissions package. If you're looking for help on the admissions side, we can help there too, like essays and, uh, you know, it's especially helpful for you if you have kids who are trying to get into those super very selective schools like the Harvards and the MITs and the Stanfords and so forth. Every kid, trust me, every kid's got the grades that your kid has. You got to stand out some other way. And so that admissions package is great for kids who need to have something special in their applications in order to try to improve their chances of getting in those very selective schools. And you can do both. A lot of families choose both. They're like, we need help with both. We need help on the admission side, trying to get my kid into these highly selective schools. But we also want help on the financial aid side because we can't pay full price. We just don't want to pay full price. So we have both. So we are running a boot camp special. If you think this might be something you want, we're taking 16% off. And so the normal combo price is 6,500, but if you know you want this, you can sign up tonight and get 16% off. So you can save over 100, over what is it, over $1,000 on the combo, and over $500 on the financial aid package. So if you think you might be interested in those, but you're not sure and you want to talk to us, I'm going to put up now, go back and put up a QR code for you to book some time. And scan this and you can get on a wait list. We'll give you a call tonight and just chat with you. You can answer your questions about the service packages. If you're not sure which one's right for you, happy to answer those questions. What do you get for this? And, you know, every family is different. But we do on the financial aid side have a guarantee that we'll find ways to save you at least the cost of the fee, or we'll give you your money back because, there's almost always ways to find savings for college. So if you're worried about that, we will certainly find more than cost of fee so you get your money back. But last year's class, the average family, we saved $120,000 roughly over 4 years plus interest on loans. So it's quite a pretty good ROI for most families. On the admission side, we don't do guarantees, of course, but we'll help you make the strongest case possible, to get into those very hard to get into schools. Again, all the kids applying to Harvard have good grades and scores. Your kid's going to have to stand out through essays and extracurriculars and resumes and personal statements and interviewing and all that stuff. That's what the admissions package is for, is helping for that. So, all right. How are we doing? We have a couple of minutes left. Michael, anything you want to add?
Well, somebody asked a question about private scholarships. Like, what about private scholarships? Are you talking about private
Oh,
scholarships?
yeah.
I said, no, we're not talking about that one. In this session, we have a whole dedicated webinar on private scholarships. Jason delivers that. I delivered that. We do it together sometimes. So you can find it on demand on our YouTube channel. If that's something you want to learn more about, go check that out. We also have a bunch of blog posts about it. It's typically a smaller part of the whole aid package. I think on average, and families going to college, it's like 5% out of the whole kit and caboodle. So not to say that that's not, of merit or worth the investment of time. But I'd say, I mean, what we usually say is prioritize first prioritize the big dollars first. What's the big dollars? Where do those come from? The right list that schools you can afford, and then schools that fit your financial profile, like Jason was talking about. If you have super high income, okay, if you apply to the Ivies, you're not going to get any discount there because there's no scholarships there. That kind of, that you got to nail that down first, and then the private scholarships can help kind of continue to close any gap you have left over. Because hey, every dollar that's free means that's another dollar of loan with interest you don't have to pay back. So that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, I always say private scholarships is like icing on the cake. It's not the meat and potatoes of paying for college. Like if you can get it, great. But Michael, you could probably attest this, but I talked to so many families and the parents are like, I can't get my kid to apply for any of these. They applied for three, they didn't get them, and then now they've quit. How do I, that's the problem. Like,
Yeah.
and my joke is there are thousands of private scholarships. That's the good news. There are thousands of private scholarships. That's the bad news. And so if your kid is
Yeah.
like my kid was senior year in high
Yeah.
school, oh my gosh, they get senioritis. Good luck. You got to apply for 100 scholarships to win five or 10, and that's why we don't put a lot of focus on private scholarships. Great if you have the type of kid who'll go after those and will put in that
Yeah.
time and the effort, but you waste a lot of time when the real money is through the financial aid process.
Yeah. 100%. I had to do kind of the conquer and divide. And I said, with my twins, and I said, okay, I'm going to find 10 for each of you, but then you guys got to, you got to apply to every one of them because I'm going to research it and I'm going to know it's a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And you get another, like, rah, 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 okay.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
was, that was
Exactly.
about it.
That's pretty good. That's good. Yeah. All right. So we are at the hour 8 o'clock again. Hopefully this all was helpful for the first night. We're looking forward to seeing y'all tomorrow night as well. And again, if you're going to DIY this, make sure you use my cap, upgrade, and unlock all the features and all the schools and stuff for $5 a month. If you're thinking you might want some help with all this, you want to invest some in, outsourcing to experts to kind of do it all for you. Take it off my plate. That's what a mom said to me this past week. Can you just do this for me? I'm so tired of thinking about this stuff. We do that option if you're wondering, what package is right for me. Does it make sense? Use the QR code to schedule some time. We'll give you a call tonight and just chat on the phone. And otherwise, thank you all for attending. And the recording, as Michael said, will be available tomorrow. And then night two is tomorrow night. So
Woo-hoo.
looking forward to that and seeing you all tomorrow night. Hopefully this all was helpful. Give us a thumbs up if that was helpful, or a clap, or a heart, or emoji, or whatever. All right, very good. Hopefully that
Positive
was helpful.
affirmations. There we go.
Yeah, that makes us feel good.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Good night.